Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Hawaiian Affairs hearing. I am Senator Maile Shimabukuro, Chair of Hawaiian Affairs. We also have Vice Chair Senator Kurt Favela. Other members include Senators Ihara, Kyoho Kolole, and Richards. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. You can find links to viewing options for all Senate hearings and meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. If you're interested in seeing the written testimony, you can go to capitol.hawaii.gov. In the unlikely event that we must abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene, discussing the outstanding business, and a public notice will be posted. And for those testifying remotely, your audio will be muted and video disabled until it's your turn. And as is our practice, there's a 2-minute time limit per testifier. If there are temporary technical glitches during your turn, we may have to move on to the next person due to time constraints. And we appreciate your understanding and remind you that the committee has already received your written testimony. And members, please wait to ask your questions for the testifiers until we have gone through all the testifiers for that measure. And so the first thing on our agenda is GM 567, and this is submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Hawaiian Homes Commission, gubernatorial nominee Walt Kaneakua for a term to expire June 30, 2027. And first up, we have DHHL in support.
Yes, Chairman Kali Watson with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, Chair Shimabukuro and Vice Chair Kurt Favela, as well as members of the committee. I am here testifying on behalf of this individual, because I've known him quite a long time, all the way from high school, as well as while I was working for Senator Inouye and various other functions, as well as working for the National Guard as air pilot, and just a variety of very impressive activities that were performed by this individual. In the short time that he's been with the commission, he's really exhibited some major leadership as well as expertise that is lacking with the makeup of our commission. So he brings a lot to the table for us, and I'm very excited that he was willing to serve, because he's in retirement and he's kind of slowing down like maybe a lot of us should be doing. But in any event, I'm very thankful that he's a member of our commission, and I fully support him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Next, we have the Waimanao Hawaiian Homes Association in support, Native Hawaiian Community Development Corporation support, DLNR in support. They're here. The Hawaii Pacific Foundation, actually these are all in support. Hawaii Pacific Foundation, Pauline Namuo, Hawaiian Homes Commissioner, Ho'oponopono LLC in support.
Aloha mai kākou.
Aloha.
Ivan, Kalaimana Ole, co-manager Ho'oponopono LLC, Native Hawaiian Advocacy Corporation operating on Waianae Coast. Thank you, Senator Shimabukuro, our rep from the West Side, our senator from the West Side, and Kurt, and Tim, and Jared. So I support this. I support Walter's nomination, not just because of his amazing resume. Wow, I mean, I do all my research on all the commissioners here. The first guy that went catch my eye with an amazing resume was Russell Kaupu, and the second one was Walter. You read his resume. My wife just brought him. It's freaking amazing. So this is the kind of guy I like get mentored by. But not only that, the guy is a man of faith, and the guy is a soft-spoken man, and he listens, he hears people, and then he hardly ever say anything unless it really moves him. And one of the best things I ever heard him say was on a controversial issue was, "This decision is my decision." That's the kind of people I like deal with on a commission, when it's their decision and they're not being twisted or turned according to what somebody else says. And he stood for the minority voice. We had that issue, majority was Aole, and I was the only minority voice pretty much on that issue. And he stood for the minority voice because I was speaking for the minority voice. So I really appreciate him on that. The other thing I like share about Walter, my support for Walter, is that he brings something to the commission that I never seen in a long time. And this is what I'm looking for. If you believe that your job on a commission is to protect the trust at all costs, then you're not the person I like deal with. if you believe that your job on a commission is to promote Native Hawaiians back onto the land, as what is the purpose, Section 101, then that's the guy I like to do it. You know what I mean? So for me, you should ask people. People want to be on a commission. What is your purpose? Do you believe that your job is to protect the trust at all costs? Up until this administration coming in, that was the philosophy. And look what happened. Almost 30,000 on a wait list because they're protecting them not at all costs just for them, but at the expense of us, the Native Hawaiians who are waiting on the list and dying on the list. So I need people that's on a commission that their purpose is to fulfill Section 101 of the Act. And if you like that, then I'm cool with you. But if you believe that you're going to protect the trust at all costs at the expense of us, that's not the kind. And Walter is not that guy. So I support him 100%. Oh, thank you. Aloha.
Mahalo, mahalo. And again, these are all in support. And if I miss anybody on Zoom, please let me know. Timothy Faulkner, Jacqueline Conant, Suzanne Punani Varas Lam, Derek Chow, Clinton Park, Ivalani Koide, Stephanie Kawasaki, Jennifer Wooten, Kamakana Watanabe, Rodney Ostentista, Joshua Michaels, Luann Favorito, Rufino Magliba, Julie Aiko Manaole, Mike Rollins, yep, thank you, Ralph Hasegawa, C. Shimazu, Janine DeFries, Kyle Shiroma, Lemomi Khan, Jonathan Osorio, David Taga, Winona Lee, Sachi Koulukukui, Ashley Koono, Irish Barber, Sarah Hamakawa, Alice Tom, PhD, Janet Haole, Jermaine Myers, Jermaine Myers, opposition. Everyone else support. Jennifer Sabas, Michael Kalekini, Michelle Brown. Is anyone else here to testify regarding GM 567? You're on Zoom or in person? Okay. Please see none. Guess we could, maybe we'll call up. Oh, yes. Okay, please come forward.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Scotty Rees-Maniz. We're with the Friends of Waimanalo. We are a workforce development program. We're also with Ohana Hui Ventures, our for-profit arm that we do Hawaiian culture, as well as with the Waimanalo Canoe Club. We in support of our brother here, Walter Kaneakua, and we have been blessed by helping 143 people because of their efforts in helping to certify, train, and getting people into the workforce. He has been a mission for the people, and I'm a perfect example of what we have done for the community with no cost to the people. So we're excited about what he can do, and if the possibilities of what he can do on a bigger level. So we're excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Aloha.
Thank you. Anyone else here for GM 567? Okay, then maybe members, do you have any questions for the testifiers before we call up the nominee? Okay, then Mr. Kaneakua, thank you so much for coming in person. And did you want to make a statement? It's optional, or you want to go to questioning either way?
I can make a statement or I can leave it for the record.
Okay, well, feel free, you
Whatever.
could, yeah, if you prepared something, feel free to say something, or,
I did.
yes. Yeah.
All right. I felt compelled to do that.
Thank you.
Aloha Chair Shimabukuro, Vice Chair Favela, Senators Keoho Kalole, and Senator Richards. Thank you very much for seeing me. Thank you for the opportunity to appear to answer questions about Governor Green's welcomed appointment to the Hawaiian Homes Commission. I appreciate your service to the people of the state and the future that you work toward improving. Public service requires endless energies, patience, and fortitude. Those that choose service at any level, in any sphere, are called, tried, and occasionally thanked for Herculean efforts. More often, one must draw on intrinsic motivation to fuel the struggle of our societal challenges. I appear before you asking that you evaluate my ability to serve based on a long record of adventures meeting challenges. My strong upbringing by working class parents and their insistence that our family strive toward improvement is foundational in my appetite to help. God, family, neighbors, community, and country constitute my focus and have sustained me through turbulent times. I've been blessed consistently with mentors who lifted my awareness through education, experience, and exceptional counsel. Today, I am pleased but not satisfied with a few accomplishments in service to these communities. The challenges facing Native Hawaiians towards self-sufficiency and governance span centuries. Whether pre-contact or post, our people struggle for survival in multiple environs. Today, the trials of providing homes founded upon Prince Kuhia's legacy and implementing legislation is daunting at best. Nevertheless, many crusading servants have risen to the task to provide. Many setbacks have stalled but not extinguished the zeal to succeed. You are more familiar with the conundrum than most. You have seen Hawaiian Homes leaders arrive and depart. Today, funded by a remarkable allocation, creates a season to act with focus and deliberation. I offer my time, talent, and treasure to contribute to this gargantuan effort and ask your support to join the campaign. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'm prepared to answer your questions as best I can. Equally important to listen to your counsel as we all move forward. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Members, questions? And I know Vice Chair must have a few.
No,
Absolutely.
Or if not, I can.
Come on, Vice Chair.
Not so much questions. Feel the pressure. You know, I always have something to say, but today I was very blessed to meet you and got to talk to you in my office. I only been here for a short time with different commissions coming in and out, but the caring, the sincerity that you have, when we spoke in my office, is, I never seen that. And I, however Governor Green or, the Director Cully got to either convince you or bring you along is going to be a blessing to our people. And that's just a comment that continue on your journey and what you had said in your statement. But I have really no questions. I just wanted to thank you for being here and trying to do best for our people. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, Senator Richards?
Yeah, thank you. It's a little bit along the same lines as Senator Favela. I did have a question for our candidate. I asked him, why would you do this? But to his point and to the answers, we talked story, and I think you and I see a lot very similarly. And I even recognize him from his Aloha airline days. I used to fly quite a bit back in the day, but similar to what Senator Favela is talking about, the Aloha you're demonstrating, and Demont, some of your comments I have to appreciate, because that's what I'm getting. Reading your resume, yeah, it's stellar, but more importantly, that how you are going to phrase and frame going forward with the commission and the trust. So that's why I told you before, I'm going to be supporting you. I'm definitely supporting you. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Chair.
Yes.
And I in support too.
Okay, yeah. I guess I just have a question. I know that there's been a lot of internal debate and a lot of struggle over the path moving forward. And, one of the things that I really found striking was in looking at what I think is the most recent, survey of the waitlisters, is that at least half of them were identified as being not likely to qualify for a mortgage based on their current financial situation.
Yes.
And so, I know that you're trying to come up with creative ways to try to get people off the wait list who might not be able to afford a traditional turnkey and mortgage and utility bill and everything a month. And
Yes, Chair.
and I know you're getting criticism for that. So do you see the path forward as trying to do a combination of whether it's multifamily housing, rentals, different ways that I know that some beneficiaries may find scary because it's not your normal path, but something that I think has to be done maybe out of necessity, since we don't have enough land to satisfy 30,000 people, and not enough resources really to make a single family home for every single, on a traditional single family home for every person on the wait list. Is that sort of what you're looking at?
I'll answer it in a couple of ways. Financial literacy in any society is critical to survival. Native Hawaiians have an opportunity to become more financially literate, and NAHASDA funds and the elements in the department strive toward that. If you're not financially stable, if you don't have a good foundation, it doesn't matter if you have a home or not, you won't be able to hold on to it. And so that's a critical portion of it. The other is that if conventional approaches have failed us for decades, then we have to go unconventional, whatever that means. And if we are able to put Hawaiians in homes and assure their ability to prosper once they have shelter, then we should try whatever we can within reason, within budget, within timeline to get those things done.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, Senator Keokalole.
I thank you as well for meeting with me and stepping forward to serve. This conversation prompted a question that might be hard. So
I'll welcome it.
but I do recall that you have some familiarity and experience with how things work in Washington and
Yes.
how that relates to the department. There are a significant number of sections of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act that the legislature has already amended, an existing state law subject to, but what many beneficiaries expect will be an eventual approval of those changes by the Congress. And every year we take up a slate of measures that make, amendments to the act that are also substantive in nature and likely to require changes by the Congress. This seems to be the prevailing sort of sentiment for the moment that we're in, but I know in prior legislatures and prior members of the congressional delegation have had competing feelings about that because it creates maybe an unfounded expectation that these things might happen, within a reasonable amount of time, which is, from the look of the Congress today, rather unrealistic because of the level of partisanship that exists, but also because of the potential for negative consequences if the Congress were to take up the issue of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, given some beliefs in Congress that these types of programs should just be done away with, and the feeling that it might, trigger, open a Pandora's box. So I'm wondering what your perspective on that is, because I have mixed feelings about it as well. I think it's important for the legislature to set the prerogative, but also I've had conversations with members of homestead communities who have asked me directly, how long I think it will take for things like 1/32nd, blood quantum to happen, because I'm trying to make decisions about legacy planning for my own family. It's been very difficult for me to not be sincere with them in saying that you should not be planning for it to happen anytime soon, because it's just not a realistic thing to base significant family and financial decisions off of, right? So I'm wondering what your feeling is on that, because you will likely be asked to make decisions on it in the commission, and the legislature will come and seek our guidance from your lead on this, year after year.
Thank you, Senator. I would say that Pandora's box is already open. And once it's open, you can't close it, as the fable talks about. I think that we have to strive in whatever swim lanes we've got to accomplish successes, no matter how small, and build upon them until we achieve an acceptable level of progress. I think too often we expect the sky instead of looking for movement toward the sky. I know a little bit about the sky because that was my working environment. That's where I'm happiest. And the sky's a great place. But in order to get there, you have to go through that runway, forget the runway behind you, and get up in the air. And without incremental steps along the way, we'll fail to get there. The blood quantum is a conundrum. As we know, the successors are allowed at 25%. Once we determine, or if the law is passed, that 25% is the quantum, that list will grow exponentially. And then we will have to house maybe 4-6 times the number that are on the list right now. I'm interested in getting people onto property who are at the 50% level so that they can leave it to those who can succeed with the 25%. And then we'll start wrestling the larger gorillas at the same time as we move forward. I know that the Congress in Washington is just, they're having a great time in food fights. And it seems as though the process of food fighting is more important than the outcome. They have forgotten their constituents who just want to make a living, feed their families. We cannot forget that at the local level, and all politics are local. So we will work in our areas of influence to make sure that we take care of the Hawaiians that we're able to, and we will move forward from there. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Further questions? Okay,
I did want to correct the record.
yes.
Chair said that I was retired, and I find this not to be retirement. The fact that I don't get paid for a lot of what I do should never be considered retirement. I consider retirement when they're playing taps up at Punch Bowl and they're putting me in the ground with my parents and my grandparents.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Chair.
I really appreciate you being willing to do what you're doing. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Move on. Thank you. So the next measure is GM 639, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Island Burial Council, Islands of Kauai and Ni'ihau, gubernatorial nominee Wayne Harada Jr. for a term to expire June 30, 2028. And first we have DLNR in support. Aloha.
Chair Shimabukuro, Vice Chair Favela, and to the rest of the committee, I'm Leslie Iaokea, the Interim History and Culture Branch Chief with the State Historic Preservation Division, and our department stands on our written testimony and support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Luan Favorito in support. Anyone else here for GM 639? Members, any questions for the testifiers? Okay, and then next, I think we may have him on Zoom. Yes, oh, thank you so much for joining us. So we have Wayne Harada Jr. Did you want to make a statement or did you just want to go into questions, Mr. Harada?
Just like to send my aloha to you, Chair, and it's an honor to serve our people, and I'm really honored to be able to serve another term if confirmed by the Senate, to serve our people in Kauai and Ni'ihau.
Great, and thank you for coming on such short notice. We appreciate you coming here. Members, any questions? Yeah, I don't know that I have any. I'm trying to think. I think we're good. I think there is actually a measure on. Is it on this bill? I don't know if you're aware of this measure, HB 1529, and it's talking about holdover members on the Burial Council. Do you folks have problems with quorum?
Yes, we have had problems with quorum for probably the last few years. I was on holdover, but I'm not really sure because we haven't had enough members for quorum for a while now. And so we haven't been really active as a council. So I really appreciate these measures that are going through.
Do you folks allow hybrid participation? So if someone can't be there in person, can they be on Zoom? Phone or something?
I was told that we're not able to join by Zoom, and the law required that we must be in person. But I think if we did allow Zoom or by phone, I think we would have more participation and more people willing to join.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean, I know that it creates, I mean, of course, it's a really inconvenience for you folks to have to keep reconvening for the same issue, just there's no quorum. And it creates a major inconvenience for everyone else out there that's trying to get a permit, and they need to get past the historic preservation review part of their permit. They have to make sure they've gone through all the protocols, and so there's a lot of delays, that are the result of these issues. So, geez, that brings me to, I guess for DLNR, I mean, given this, would DLNR be open to perhaps maybe amending HB 1529 to keep what's there, but maybe to also add that, that it'll be permitted that, that Borough Council members can participate virtually or by telephone? I know it's taking you off guard, but it's something that
Madam Chair, I'm Downer, I'm the administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division.
Yes.
And I guess before I answer your question, you want to deal with 1529 now,
or I guess, is it something, given the testimony from a member that can speak from experience, it must be frustrating for the council members to try to convene and there's not quorum, then they have to reschedule and repost and go to the sunshine law again. I mean, is this something that's a frustration for the department as well?
Absolutely. And the problem is in terms of having hybrid meetings, the problem is island specific. So on some islands, we have the technology available to us, on other islands, we don't. So on Kauai in particular, we don't have access to the technology that would allow us to do a hybrid meeting, which we would very much like to do that. And we would certainly encourage the councils to have hybrid meetings. We have had two of the burial councils are adamantly opposed to having hybrid meetings. They want them in person, and they are really not even willing to discuss them. And at the end of the day, the burial councils are independent agencies. We provide administrative support, and that's it. So if the chair says this is the way it's going to be, we try to provide support to that.
Well, I mean, because on the healthcare front, I mean, one thing that came out during the COVID pandemic is that it was very difficult for a lot of kupuna, especially in rural areas, to participate in virtual meetings with their providers because they don't know how to use the computers and everything. And so actually the governor, I think, signed some kind of emergency proclamation and said that at least it's still going on, there's a pilot project that if you're in a rural area and whatever, you can participate on a telephone only basis for behavioral health appointments. And it's been a real godsend for many kupuna and people. And so I don't know, I mean, maybe in these areas where you say you don't have the technology, I mean, maybe it could just be telephone, they could be on speakerphone, and participate in the burial council meeting if that's the case, that you don't have the adequate technology to be on Zoom or Teams or whatever. So I don't know, just a thought.
I mean, I think so. Of course, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, all of the meetings for all of the burial councils and our historic places review board, those were all virtual meetings, and frankly, I thought they worked wonderfully. Not all of the committees agree with me on that. But in terms of sort of teleconferencing, I don't think we would object to that. I think the only issue for us would be to make sure we are able to capture the stuff from a telephone the way we would if somebody was on Zoom.
Yeah.
And as long as we can get over that in terms of creating the record, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't know what.
Yeah, Mr. Murata, I mean, for you as the chair of your council, are they for or against allowing virtual participation or telephone participation in the meetings?
I think as far as our chair, Quinsa, she actually really liked the Zoom because we had more participation. But then we were told by our burial specialist that I guess it did away with that mandate of online and Zoom, so we needed to return to in-person. So that's the only reason why we returned to in-person, because we had that, we're given those things.
Okay, Senator Kehoe-Kolole?
Yeah, question for Mr. Donner. Can you explain what technology shortfalls there are that would prevent a hybrid type of Zoom meeting setup like we have right here?
Yeah, so on Kauai, we don't really have an office. We borrow space from the Department of Transportation. We have 2 people working on Kauai who work off of laptops. And last time we looked, there was not this sort of, there was not a conference center or a conference room that had this kind of technology available for us to take advantage of. And if I'm sure it's in the legislative budget, setting this up is really expensive. I mean, far more than we can afford. I mean,
So it would be
that original hardware.
equipping the spaces on the neighbor island. So the Oahu Council, if they choose to, I mean, they could have the meetings at Kalanimoku where
They do meet in the boardroom.
Well, so, I mean, if they were to elect to go to hybrid, they would still need some sort of authorization from the legislature to do so?
So the problem that Mr. Harada is referring to was that when the lockdown ended, the exemption for hybrid meetings ended with it, but the legislature has already amended the law so that would allow hybrid meetings, and in fact, it is less restrictive than it was before. I mean, it's always been possible to have hybrid meetings, but if you have, for example, a council member attending remotely, that has to be from a place where the public has to be.
Right, I serve on
witness.
a commission and we have to announce that we're by ourselves. So
Yeah,
we're-
and that's
Right.
no longer, I mean,
Right.
they no longer necessarily have to have a place where they're present. And that
Well,
was
so
a
the
real
question,
burden.
just to be clear, was whether there would need to be some legislative authorization
Yeah.
or not. If it's a question of resources in order to equip the room on a neighbor island to facilitate that island council's hybrid meetings, then that's a appropriation issue that's
Yeah.
different, right? So the language would not actually be necessary. What would be necessary on Kauai would be the camera and the screen and the
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
connectivity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
But is legislative permission required if it's telephone only participation?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because for someone like on Kauai where they don't have all the, the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be something worth exploring, especially with the housing crisis we're experiencing now, and all the permit delays that really, increase the cost to make houses.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Well, the question I had was,
Vice Chair?
we already talked about it, how we going to protect and improve the process of our resources. So basically, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not I don't understand the whole thing I'm still here, but I think this is very important to have burial council start meeting and getting things going for our people, because we have a lot of issues island-wide, and especially now in Maui and some of the areas where we're getting erosion, and how we're gonna protect the EVs and those things. So we gotta figure out something.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none. Members, I'm prepared to, just so we can release the nominees, to go ahead and vote on the 2 GMs so they can go on with their day. They're welcome to stay, of course, and if they want to observe this hearing, but based on all the supportive testimony, the vast majority supportive testimony, I would like to recommend that we advise and consent to both GMs. So we'll start for the GM 567. This is for Walt Kaneakua to the Hawaiian Homes Commission. I recommend advise and consent. Any discussion? And then Vice Chair.
All right. Chair Shubakuro,
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Ihara. Aye. Senator Kehoe-Kolole.
Aye.
Senator Richards.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. All right, and then for GM 639, this is for Wayne Harada Jr. for the Burial Council, also recommend advise and consent. Any discussion? Seeing none, then Vice Chair?
All right, Chair votes,
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Ihara. Senator Keokalole.
Aye.
Senator Richards.
Aye.
All right,
Okay.
motion passes
All
or
right, congratulations.
adopted and all that.
Congratulations. Did you want to take a quick photo?
Yeah,
Photo? He looks so nice here. Okay, because maybe we'll do a quick picture. I don't know if we need to, I guess,
Adjourn.
recess IT. Yeah, recess IT. Okay, reconvening the Hawaiian Affairs agenda. We are now on House Bill 2420. This establishes the Act 279 Special Fund until June 30, 2026. Deposits certain unexpended and unencumbered funds appropriated through Act 279 from 2022 that are set to lapse on June 30, 2024, the Act 279 Special Fund. So first up, we have DHHL in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, the department stands on its written testimony in strong support of this measure. As you might know, we just had an Act 279 working group committee hearing yesterday with the House where we were able to articulate and confirm that we are right on track. But just in case we need more time, we appreciate this bill with its amendments as it honors the legislative intent of Act 279, and we're available for questions. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Ms. Leal. Next, we have BNF with comments. And then we have the Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We've submitted comments on the measure. Our comments are directed towards the special fund. We're just questioning why that special fund is being created in this draft of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Leimomi Khan in support, Jacqueline Ambrose in support. Anyone else here for HB 2420? See none, members, any questions? Okay, see none, then we'll move on. Oh, yes, Senator
Yeah,
Richards? Yes.
Chair, comments from BNF, more of a policy thing, and Senator Ihara, it's always a policy thing
Yes.
with you. Ordinarily, as they stated, they don't support special fund creation. However, I think in this situation, this would be a good thing. Just general feelings, and maybe Director, if you want to comment on that. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do. But
Obviously, yeah, this is a very, very special fund for a
Right.
very special purpose, which is to help reduce our waiting list.
yeah, so I think even though I don't support changes like that, that's why we're here to specify that for special purposes. So, okay, thank you, Chair.
All right, no other questions, any other questions? No? Thank you. Then we're going to move on, HB 2218. This amends the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act as amended to increase the loan limit for direct loans provided by DHHL from 50% to 75% of the maximum single residence loan amount allowed by HUD. And so first up, we have DHHL in support. Thank you so much. OHA also in support. Thank you so much. Anyone else here for HB 2218? See none, members, any questions? Okay, then we'll move on. House Bill 1529 allows any burial council member whose term has expired to continue in office as a holdover member until the member's reappointment to a second term is confirmed or a successor is nominated and appointed. Prohibits holdover members from holding office beyond the end of the fourth regular session of the legislature following expiration of the member's term of office. So first up, we have DLNR in support with comments.
I'm sure the department stands on its written testimony, provided comments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Leimomi Khan in support. Anyone else here for HB 1529? Okay, see none. Yeah, I guess the only question I had is, I guess, just to confirm, I mean, I think that, I'm thinking of, adding to this measure, given the housing crisis we have, allowing for phone participation, in burial council meetings, if, because I guess we've already allowed for, virtual participation. I just want to clarify that phone participation would also be permitted, especially in the event that you're in a rural area that doesn't have access or lacks the resources to have computer participation.
We would certainly support anything that, I should introduce myself for the record. I'm Alan Downer, the administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division. We would certainly support anything that increases accessibility of the meetings. The only question that I have, and I have no answer, is whether or not it's possible for us to capture the testimony received over the telephone for the record. And we would have to, I'm probably making too big a thing of it, but that's the only issue I would have.
Okay, also interesting. So the members, so people coming from the public that want to testify, at this point in time, they have to come either in person or on Zoom, is how it's done now? They can't, is that the only two ways they can participate?
Where there's a hybrid meeting, yes.
If it's a hybrid meeting, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. And then same for the members themselves, they can only be either in person or in Zoom.
Correct.
Yeah, for those chairs that allow it.
Right.
Yeah. And now, which of the burial council's chairs that are against virtual? Just out of curiosity.
So Oahu has been adamantly opposed to virtual meetings.
Really?
Even as a safety measure. They really feel adamantly that there needs to be, they need to do their business in front of live people.
And Oahu Burial Council also applies that to the testifiers as well? They have to be in person? Or can testifiers be virtual?
Leslie, my understanding is that they expect that the people testifying to be present in person.
You guys can offer. Oahu Island Burial Council.
Introduce yourself for the record.
Aloha, Leslie Iaukia again. OIBC, Oahu Island Burial Council, has a different dynamic. Simias, we had a brawl back in September at their meeting. So they really feel the need to not have the Zoom, not have the phone. The chair is responsible for making that decision. And so as far as SHPD is concerned, we're facilitating their meeting. So we do let them know that that would be a viable option to have everyone have access to their meetings. And that's where we stand. However, we can't make them do that. And also on the Maui Council, they feel the same way.
Now, has that policy of requiring everyone to be in person ever hindered the ability to have quorum and to get business done?
I don't think it's hindered the quorum. I do think it has hampered their ability to do business because they may table an item because they don't have, they have all of the written testimony and all, in our view, all of the information they need to make a decision, but there's nobody to physically present it, and they'll just move on. And that's problematic. And in fact, on Oahu, they've insisted, well, if there are multiple people involved, every single one of them needs to be present.
I mean, okay. And so this whole thing of like the chair being able to control everything, I mean, is that something the legislature could pass some kind of, add this to the bill saying that the department can trump what the chair believes in this topic in the interest of getting business done. And like I said, I mean, the housing crisis, I mean, all these permits being held up, I mean, could that be done where that the chair could have advisory, make the chair like advisory, but not that they have, a complete, control over all this stuff?
I think that's a question that's way above my pay grade, but I do think the legislature could tell the burial council. So I'm sorry, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
I do think that the legislature can tell the councils, you're going to conduct Zoom, hybrid meetings where the technology is available.
Because I mean, yeah, as someone from a rural community, I mean, and my constituents, I mean, it's been such a game changer, to finally allow them to be online, and not to have to drive all the way to the Capitol just to give a 2-minute testimony, to give it a 1-minute time limit. And it's so frustrating. And I was just on the bus today and there was an incident and it took like 45 minutes longer than it should have to get here. Not anybody's fault, but there was just a health incident someone had. These are very common occurrences when you're from a rural area. And I can just imagine, all the people that are trying to get to these meetings and the members themselves who are volunteers, not even getting paid like I am. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
And just to give you an example,
Yeah.
last year we had 5 meetings that were canceled. And this year we're in March and 2 meetings have been canceled for this island. So.
Because of why?
Because the chair would like to cancel due to certain business items that do come up.
Who's the chair now?
Kamana'o Mills.
Senator
Yeah,
Richards.
Chair, I appreciate your comments, and I think we probably shouldn't press them on an opinion.
Thank you very much.
But I do agree with you, your statement. I'm from Big Island, and at the county level, we've been conducting via Zoom for a long time because we're such a big island. So we can use the modern technology to help facilitate going forward.
Yeah.
I agree. For me, I'm not a tech guy, but to see the benefits in Hilo with courts and everything else, this is very important to our people. So I'm not understanding, like I said, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but what is the priority? What is the priority? Doing what they need to do for us, the burial council, not whether we can be in person and have some donuts and tea and say, how's it? Conducting the work of the burial council. That's the reason why I ask, is it hard to get people to be a part or get chosen or nominated to the burial council?
It is a pretty consistent problem finding people to apply. In part, it is, as you know, this is a very, very sensitive topic. It's emotionally fraught for everybody involved.
Yes.
And there's some people who, no matter how strongly they feel like they don't want to be put in that situation or put themselves into that situation. Then we also have some people who would probably like to do it, but then they've seen Oahu Island Burial Council at its finest and go, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting myself in that situation. So, and frankly, there's not an enormous population of people who really consider themselves experts as well. We're dealing with a very small population of people who are willing to take this on and have the expertise. And frankly, a lot of them, we've had many people turn us down. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely comfortable with us going out and recruiting, but I think, that's the only way we find nominees. And a lot of times people they just don't want to be a party to it.
Right, because we have the limitations of currently members cannot serve 8 years to cannot hold over, and then a clarification of holding over a member holding office beyond the ending of the 4th regular session of the legislation following that. So the reason why I bring this up, of course, we got to make changing and since my staff wrote it down, I'm going to read it. It says changing effective date to July 1st, 3,000. But the reason why I guess I'm saying that is because every time, like say we have a good burial council and then they term out and then we flatline. See, that depends on development, everything that is crucial to us as the people. So we need to get together, I guess, to find out how we can, I don't like to say improve, but try to make it more of a working mechanism so that we can get these things done. Going off the subjects, Kali, does it prevent you guys to move forward if we don't have burial council? It does, see? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
Okay, see, there you go.
Holds up everybody.
It's a good idea. Well, that's like the state having their own department for planning and permitting. I like that too.
Senator Hara?
I had
Okay,
a
thank you.
question on a different angle. The deputy AG that's assigned to your office or the department, have they been consulted with this, about this bill? Because the Constitution allows the governor to fill a vacancy temporarily, interim. There's no authorization for holdovers in the Constitution. So there's a statute that says, well, the Constitution says one session, but holdover will say two, because I guess the theory of government got to operate. And this one says 4. So my question is, does the 4 run afoul of the Constitution? And so that is my question. I would ask the AG, and I would want to know before we vote on it.
That is not something that came up in my discussions with the Deputy Attorney General. We did talk about the bill in general, but that part of it we did not.
Right. So specifically, it's Article 5, Section 6 of the Constitution that specifies how to fill vacancies for boards and commissions.
Right.
And my question is, does this bill is that provision a problem for the passage of this bill? That's the question.
So I mean, I can ask, certainly. I just observed that, as far as I'm aware, that the statute allows, multiple, the holdover has been on the books for a long time.
Right.
Although it's not 4 years, as I believe it's 1 year now. So I don't imagine it's ever been challenged, and presumably the AG is okay with it.
Right.
Yeah, I will check.
Yeah, the governor could approve this. Governor approve. It's with this one governor giving up the power for future governors. That's what the issue is, because the governor has a right to pick their nominees, and so if it's where. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any other questions, members? Okay, then let's move on to the final bill. Thank you. We have HB 2772 relating to the state seal, requires use of the modern Hawaiian orthography, including kahako and okina on the state seal. So first up, we have Kaleo Onakupa with comments.
Aloha, mai kako.
Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha, Chair Shimabukuro, Vice Chair Favela, members of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, Senator Ihara, Senator Ke'okalole, and Senator Richards. Mahalo nui for this opportunity to provide testimony on this bill virtually. I really appreciate it. Aloha kako o no okaheo faria, ke noho neo ma kane ohe. I stand in support. I stand by my written testimony, that I submitted, but I also wanted to just comment on this bill further. When I was learning English as a second language, I learned it when I was 18. I would lean on the English dictionary, its definitions and phonetic spelling when I encountered words that were unfamiliar or that was new. Most of them were. And I recognized back then that the onus to learn was on me. To bridge that gap, despite wondering why words were spelled different than how they sounded. For instance, school. I was learning English at the university level, and I wondered why school was spelled the way that it sounded, SKU. But as I began to reach higher levels of proficiency in English, that no longer bothered me. I came to understand how things are spelled and how they sound could be different. Every now and then I still make errors and I fix it and move on. I did not, as a learner, expect the state of Hawaii to change the way how things are spelled to help me or other second language learners how to pronounce things. Again, I'm the learner, and that kuleana to learn English, that's on me. This issue with the diacritical markings are similar. We have 100 years plus of writing in Hawaiian without these diacritical markings, used both in formal settings and informal contexts. containing content from around the world. The native speakers of the language continue to write without these diacritical markings to this day. We, the native speaking community, have consistently offered testimony against the mandatory use of diacritical markings in Hawaiian. As an educator that works both inside and outside of the Niihau community, I see the value of these markings for learners of Hawaiian. It is a tool. But that is where the diacritical markings belong, in the classroom, as a valuable learning tool with the expectation that one advances to higher levels of proficiency, with the ability to communicate in the language to be understandable to native speakers of the language. This is how we would gauge proficiency in second language learners. It's one's ability to be understood by native speakers. This is the experience that I encountered learning English. If Hawaiian is to change, then I wonder, should in English as well? Should we change both languages to phonetic spellings? In closing, to vote against mandatory use of diacritical markings in Hawaiian is not a vote against Hawaiian language, but rather a vote to expect more from our Hawaiian speaking community, to develop the proficiency in themselves and to others to truly say that Hawaiian is alive and well. Again, mahalo nui, kia aloha.
Thank you so much, Ms. Faria. Next, we have Kauna Leva in opposition, May Rose Munar, Keoki Faria with comments. Yes. Are you Keoki Faria? Okay. Let's see. Keo Kapukoa, Ka'o He Lauli'i. Comments?
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Keo Kapukoa Ka'ohelauli'i. I'm 18 years old and I just graduated from Castle High School. I'm currently a junior at UH Manoa and I'm majoring in Hawaiian Studies with the goal of entering the BAM pathway program to get my bachelor's and master's in the coming years. My mother is a native speaker of Hawaiian from Niihau, and my ohana do not utilize this modern orthography that is meant to serve as training wheels to help folks learn Hawaiian. And so, like training wheels, diacritical markings are not meant to be used forever. At some point, the learner must lose their training wheels, but yes, it does take time and effort to get to that point. And not only was I raised in a native speaking community, I'm also a product of Kaiapuni, or Hawaiian language immersion schools. And so perhaps the funds that are required to replace the work of Kupuna, who came before all of us, could be reallocated to other bills to provide much needed resources for our Hawaiian language immersion schools. And mahalo nui for giving me this opportunity to provide testimony.
Mahalo, thank you. Next, we have Keone Smith in opposition, and Hetty Sullivan in opposition, Kia Matias in opposition. Anyone else here to testify for HB 2772? Yes, please come forward.
Aloha nui kākou, Chair, Vice Chair, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Ilihia Johnson. I am the Public Affairs Officer for the Hawaii Tourism Authority, but I am appearing here in my personal capacity. So, and I'm here to speak in support of this measure. So I'm a graduate of a Hawaiian medium school, Ke Kula o Nawahio Kalani Opu'u, over outside of Hilo on Hawaii Island. My keiki attends a Hawaiian medium school here on Oahu. I'd like to thank Senator Drew Kanuha for introducing the Senate version and Representative Kirsten Kahaloa for introducing the House version. They are my representative and senator, and they also represent Kona, birthplace of Kauikeauli, who is credited with the state motto, Ua mau ke au ka aina i ka pono. I'd like to also send my aloha to the Ohana Ni'ihau, without whom none of the Hawaiian medium schools that I was able to attend would have been possible. It was truly from that reservoir of ike, of knowledge, that the rest of us were able to drink and revitalize the Hawaiian language in these modern times. Aloha nui ka ohana ni'ihau. You know, for personal names, for personal use, I was always taught to respect those personal preferences. for use, diacriticals, not, whatever the case may be. But we're here today talking about public policy. And when we think about the consistency in that public policy, Act 170, which this legislature passed 2 years ago, requires translations of departments and titles, as well as modern orthography on all state letterheads. And I'd like to credit Governor Green for embracing that and continuing that drive. As one of the Hawaiian speakers in the Green administration, I've assisted with some of those translations to help make sure that all our departments can comply with Act 170. At the Hawaii Tourism Authority, our brand guidelines, which guide the way that we present the Hawaiian Islands brand globally, does require that modern orthography. We've recently revamped our digital platforms online to make sure that it's represented. We have our Ma'ema'e toolkit, which is used as a resource for those talking about Hawaii, whether in the media or in the industry, and we recommend the use of that modern orthography throughout that. So in my view, HB 2772 is about extending that consistency with previously adopted public policy to use that modern orthography for the aid of folks who need it to pronounce our words correctly. And with that, I'd like to mahalo all of you for your consideration, and I'll be available for questions if needed. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Questions, members? I guess I have a question for you then. So
Yes.
So basically, is what you're saying that did the majority of Hawaiian language speakers now feel that we should switch to the modern orthography and have kahako and okina in every time we use the language?
Well, thanks for the question. I don't feel that I am in a position to represent the majority of Hawaiian language speakers. I will say that many of the people who speak Hawaiian today, certainly not all, but many, have learned to do that through an educational system that does use that orthography.
Okay. So interesting. So I guess it's just a policy question, I guess, for us, whether we want to say that what's going to be considered proper going forward. Is it more proper to use the orthography? Is it the modern orthography? Is it more proper not to use it? Yeah, and it seems like an interesting quandary. It seems like it's kind of a topic for debate. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Any other questions, members? Any other?
A young question.
Yeah, Vice Chair.
So I was robbed of my language, so I have no idea which is the proper, and I learned a lot since I've been in the square building. On going forward, what is the proper way of speaking and understanding Hawaiian? Not so much on the understanding part, because I never learned. But going forward, I just want to make sure that we are respectful and being proper in every way, because I won't be able to say if it is or it isn't. Even though I am Native Hawaiian, I am Hawaiian, I don't know the language. I don't know the proper way, proper saying. I listen to what my kupuna is saying. I don't ever record any of the, hearing them speaking that way. I mean, the newer language, maybe I don't know which is the new or which is the old language or the proper language. All I know is I don't know. So to making a decision on the state seal, even though I was recommending and I was thinking about going aye, listening to everybody testifying, I cannot vote aye because I really don't know. And I think that would be responsible for me to vote for something that I really don't know about, that I need to get educated on. And I don't know. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, Senator Richard?
No, Eli, I listened to you and I hear you. I hear what you're saying. My concern is that we are taking something, and I know we've had this discussion before, pronunciation is very regional. And how a word is said and used, for that matter, very regional. I have to be very mindful and respectful of ni'ihau, but also kohala, because again, how things have been pronounced in kohala are very different. So, and I appreciate it's almost for me like they talk about a High German sort of university level. And I see we're taking that, and something Senator Favela was talking about, but this is the state seal. And so I'm not comfortable with doing that for the state seal. I can understand for the other stuff, but not for the state seal. Being very mindful of what I've been taught growing up about pronunciation and regionality, and we have to be respectful of that. So I'm having trouble supporting this, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Ihar?
The 1978 Constitutional Convention adopted the amendment to have both Hawaiian and English be official languages of the state. And so on a policy level, you have two languages, and you have two pronunciations, right? English, you can pronounce Hawaiian words in English, and you can pronounce Hawaiian words in Hawaiian. And so how, as a policy matter, I know we have for written, we have both. But when someone speaks, they can go back and forth, speaking in Hawaiian, or Hawaiian pronunciation and speaking with English pronunciation, go back and forth. As government officials, we could do both, I guess. Do you have a view about this kind of unique situation? Because it's different from written, because written you can do both at the same time, but when someone speaks, they only speak one or the other, if the pronunciation is different. So how do you have a view about that?
That's a fascinating question, Senator. Mahalo for that. I think for me as a Hawaiian speaker, I would tend to lean toward the Hawaiian if I see a word. Yeah. That's a great question. Mahalo.
So let's say senators who have not learned Hawaiian or even to pronounce Hawaiian, and we're elected officials or even government officials. I guess as a policy matter, as a governmental policy matter, what language, what kind of pronunciation would be appropriate for them? And so I guess if it's a Hawaiian speaking person, it'd be nice to be able to speak with Hawaiian pronunciation. I assume that would be a good first step, I guess.
Sure.
Just like you have other language speakers for courts and so forth. Yeah, so I'm interested in the issue. I'm not sure that we've come to any place that's settled, but it's a conversation worth continuing, I think.
Absolutely, and if I might, I think the whole debate about modern orthography is it offers an aid to those who may not be fluent, who may not have that ability to see and recognize and understand, contextualize, and then pronounce those words in a way that makes sense. It's an aid to those, so it's helping make Hawaii's official language a little more accessible to everyone.
Other comments or questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, would you, I mean, of course you don't speak for all Hawaiian, but I just was kind of listening to what you were saying, and so how can I see it? Is this like, I don't want to say it that way, but it sounds like, is this a kind of watered down version of what Hawaiian language should be or could be going forward? Because what I don't like, I mean, and these are what I don't like. What I don't understand is that if Ni Hao and the other Hawaiian communities are saying should be a certain way, and then we do it another way. So even if we try to make the Hawaiian language goes to every corners of the world, are we sending a correct message by, I don't want to use that word, by, I guess, lessening the words of what it means to other people? Because I don't use the word watered down. We use that in the Bible, in a watered down version of the Bible, but I don't think our words, our Hawaiian words is watered down, but just simplified in the sense of we trying to get them out there. Is that a futuristic and a beneficiary way for our language to grow and continue to live, or is gonna fizzle out because we're making too many changes later on down the line?
I appreciate that question. If I'm understanding you correctly, I don't think that making a language more accessible waters it down. I, again, personally feel that the more people are able to read, understand, pronounce correctly,
Yes.
it's better.
And Chair, just a little bit. So prior to me coming to the square building, people spoke, family members spoke. It was all G, you know. Now I get sad, I get angry, I get hurt because I cannot understand. And I ain't doing anything to try to understand, but what I'm saying is that it's hard for me. It's a tug of war back and forth because, you know, I'm prideful to be Hawaiian, very, very much so. And I cannot speak my language. I mean, of course, I cannot speak Japanese or Portuguese, but I mean, you know, I'm very prideful of who I am. So that's the reason why I'm asking that questions. But thank you for answering. Appreciate it.
Mahalo, Senator.
Thank you, Chair.
So Chair, you know, Senator Favela has once again struck a deep nerve on this that goes back at least 30 years. My grandmother was a Manaleo, and in the mid 1990s, she was involved in a dispute over what was perceived in some Olelo circles to be a Americanization of modern Hawaiian words by the Lexicon Committee coming out of one of the colleges. And the specific instance that I can recall, because I was a boy at the time, was the development of the word kamepiula, which was to signify, it was the Hawaiian translation of the word computer. And there was a revolt in some sections of the state in the Olelo community, primarily the Ni'ihau speakers and of that sort. And eventually they christened their own word Lolo'uila as an alternative to the word kamepiula because of the revolt. You know, it's very, in my view, political, because there are many Hawaiian words that are adaptations of English, right? Like, if I remember, cow is goat, and then pipi is cow, and it's because they mix them up. Cow was supposed to be cow, K-A-U, to cover C-O-W, right? So this has been a long-running, I think, dialogue, and then sometimes debate, and at other times dispute in the Hawaiian community. I had my own reservations about the measure that we passed, in part because, if you recall, because we were on the committee,
Yes.
we were new, the feeling from many of the Ni'ihau speakers that were concerned that they would eventually be made to utilize diacriticals, and the measure that we actually passed explicitly eliminated that requirement and was meant to be a progressive going forward application of the diacriticals as in state government, so that we would have appropriate pronunciation of street names and things like that by the broader population. And so for this measure, as I noted when we heard the Senate vehicle, the concern for me is the application of modern Hawaiian orthography to historical Hawaiian properties, the state seal being one of the most significant ones. So I guess, Ilihia, for the question for you is, you know, in an application of the policy, because the policy was developed by one segment of the Olelo community. And when I was in law school, I did a project for volunteer hours where we transcribed some of the old Hawaiian newspapers, because when the PDF technology was capturing them, they could not effectively capture the words appropriately because they were in the Hawaiian language, and they were mixing up E's and O's with this mid-1800s, typewriter letterhead. And so we had to go in and physically type out the text, and none of the text had diacriticals because they weren't invented yet. And so I guess that's where my discomfort with this comes from, and I want to be really respectful of everybody involved in the dialogue, because I understand exactly what we're trying to achieve, which is why we voted yes on the bill, going forward. But without where does it end if it does not end with a recognition that the state seal is a historical Hawaiian property that was created at a time when there when modern Hawaiian orthography did not exist, and that perhaps it should be frozen in time because it is by its nature a historic symbol, of our history.
I'd just like to note how.
I'm asking, so to repeat that, like where does it end? Where's the line? Will we eventually be adding diacriticals to the old newspaper texts, right?
I'm really appreciating the fact that we are having this conversation here at the Hawaii State Senate.
Thank you for not being angry at me right now.
No, not at all.
At the table.
I mean, the fact that there's this much engagement, right, from the Ololoni'ihau community and the others here, and that you're here and that you're here. I mean, it's really cool, right? When I think back to my days learning Hawaiian as a young kid, when this was still a very novel thing, I couldn't imagine having this conversation here today. So I want to mahalo all of you for engaging in this. I don't have a good answer for where this ends or starts or how much is enough or anything like that, but I certainly appreciate the consideration for this.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Ihara?
While the conversation continues about how you reconcile with the past, going forward in the future, my own aspiration is that that there are Hawaiian words that the world could benefit from experiencing that they don't usually experience in everyday life. And so my interest would be to have those Hawaiian and many Hawaiian words become global and English as the global, more of the global language gives us the opportunity to insert values and spiritual aspects of living in humanity, in the global marketplace. And so that is going forward. And so that from that point of view, then it would be easier for the world to understand, to be able to read and understand, even if it's in English. That would be a huge start, a boost to humanity and our, shifting to be more of a values kind of a species kind of. And so I do appreciate this conversation because of all of that. This is very rich.
Mahalo.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah. Okay, thank you. I guess we're going to decision making at this point. We got a time crunch, so mahalo for all the feedback. Yes, yeah. Okay, we're going to recess for decision making. Okay, reconvening the decision-making for the Hawaiian Affairs 1 p.m. agenda. So first up, we have HB 2420, establishes Act 279 Special Fund. Recommendation is to pass with amendments. I just want to give it a good date, and so we'll make it upon approval. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, then Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair Shubakuro.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Ihara.
Aye.
Senator Kehokolole.
Aye.
Senator Richards.
Aye.
All right, motion adopted.
Thanks. HB 2218, this increases the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act loan limit for direct loans. Same thing, I just want to pass with amendments, giving it a good date, making it effective upon approval. Any discussion? You see none, then Vice Chair.
All members of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, any noes, any reservations? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. HB 1529, this allows Borough Council members whose term has expired to continue as a holdover. Recommendation is to pass with amendments. I'd like to add that telephone-only participation by both council members and the public shall be allowed at all proceedings and meetings for the Borough Council. I also want to add that the Borough Council Chair's opinion about whether or not to allow virtual and/or phone participation in their proceedings should be advisory and not binding. And I want to note in the committee report that, we have a housing crisis and that virtual and/or phone participation should be allowed so they can act on pending permits, other matters whose delay will have a dire impact on our ability to provide desperately needed affordable housing for our residents. Any discussion? See none, then Vice Chair for the vote.
All right, all members of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, anybody voting no? Any reservations?
Reservations.
Reservations. All right, motion passes.
Okay, and finally, House Bill 2772 requires modern orthography, including Kahakono Kina on the state seal. Recommendation is to pass with amendments, and I want to replace the contents in the bill after discussing with members with, rather than that, on our official State of Hawaii website, which is hawaii.gov, provide there an explanation of how to correctly pronounce our state motto through the use of modern Hawaiian orthography. And then in the committee report, summarize the testimony and discussion that we had regarding this measure.
So we're not touching the seal.
Yeah, so actually, we're going to take out the language that's in the current bill and instead require that on our State of Hawaii website, we have an explanation of how you correctly pronounce the motto, and then using the modern orthography to explain how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Any discussion?
All members of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, any no's, any reservations? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.